example, in your body, right? So there is this multi-dimensional aspect to your business. Now take all this concept and this thought process and let's apply that to the product. We talked about the product as having an effect on your health, and we talk about your biology. But your health, holistically, is much more than just your biology. There is your biology, these parameters like your blood pressure, your blood glucose, your lipids, whatever, your body. But there's also a dimension about your body, which is how is this thing helping you to do what you want to do in life? Can you move freely? Can you do whatever you would like to do? Is that an obstacle in some ways to what your dreams would be or to fully realize yourself? Then there's the mental aspect, emotional aspect, and we talk about these as different slices, if you want, of our lives. And we lose sight of one key reality, is that they are all deeply interrelated, deeply intertwined. They're more than deeply intertwined. They're all interdependent to the point that it is hard to do something to one part of your health and not affect the other parts. So what we would like to do today is talk about Jeunesse product in the more holistic approach. Basically, just to talk about what are these products really doing to you, the whole you, holistically in your life. So does that sound interesting? Yes. Okay, so a little bit later, I will invite some of the members of the Scientific Advisory Board to talk about the different products in the YES system, the core products, because they were designed with this in mind, meaning that as scientists, yes, we develop product for one specific application. But if I speak for myself, when you develop a product to make you healthier, well, let me extrapolate this to the end. If you die healthy, but you haven't realized anything that you wanted to do in your life, your health does not really serve a purpose. So the idea of making you healthy is that you can do something with that health. So we always have this holistic thought process in mind, although we develop the product on solid, sound scientific basis. So you've got your health of your body, meaning your blood pressure, you've got your physical health. So let's say I give you an example. You take Revita to help repair some ligaments, some muscle, tendons, because you want to go back to do some exercise, some physical activity. You take Reserve because it helps recover. Now you go and you do your physical activity. Now that physical activity will make you release compounds like endorphins, for example, in your brain that will overall make you feel much better. You know that when you go to the gym or you do something, you just feel more alive after. That will have an impact on your cognitive function. It will have an impact on your productivity. Studies have shown, as an example, I mean, these things are hard to quantify, but exercise can improve up to 72% your productivity at work or wherever you do something. Studies have shown that right now they are using physical exercise as one of the main strategies to delay the development of a series of neurodegenerative problems, because it really has an effect on the brain. Right now, studies are done to quantify the degree with which exercise can reverse your biological clock. Your biological clock, your biological age is linked to a large extent to a process called methylation of your DNA, which is linked to epigenetics. I will not go into all these details, but the point is that one of the measurement of your biological age compared to your chronological age is methylation of DNA. Well, exercise has been shown to trigger the demethylation of DNA and reversing your biological clock. So some work is being done in that area. So again, you start with products that help you exercise, you start exercising, and then it has a whole feedback loop on your physiology. Now, another aspect of exercise, it stimulates circulation. Your heart is pumping blood through the whole body. You deliver more oxygen, nutrients. You deliver everything to your tissue. When all this liquid flows into your tissues, some of it, not only naturally, but you need it, leaks out and goes and brings these nutrients in all your tissues. This liquid, if it's not recaptured, will create swelling. So how is it recaptured? Through your lymphatic circulation. But you happen to not have a second heart to pump for your lymphatic liquid. So how is this lymphatic liquid going back to the whole circulation? It's through another pump, which is called your muscles. When I walk like this and I pump all these lymphatic vessels. It brings back all this lymphatic liquid. When I do exercise and I bend forward and squeeze my abdominal organ, I twist, when I move in all directions, you stimulate your lymphatic circulation. Without this, your tissues are soaking into goop that is coming from your metabolism that is never properly washed. It is paramount. If you don't move enough, you suffer from this cloud, if you want, over your health. Another aspect of exercise. A third aspect of exercise, stress. When you are stressed, welcome to modern life. Who is never stressed? There you go. So we all have this thing in us. We produce hormones of stress, cortisol, adrenaline. Physical activity helps burn those kinds of hormones. So as you burn these those hormones of stress will then have another impact on your brain in reducing your cognitive function, reducing your ability to focus, to be present. So if you can burn that, it is one of the reasons why you have increased cognitive function, productivity, focus, and all of this after exercise. If you have stress hormones in your body, it will reduce the ability of stem cells to migrate in various tissues. These studies were done. So exercise, you take Revitablu to release stem cells, you do exercise, there's a loop here where you start to help your body, help you get better. Now, when we talk about stress, where is stress coming from? Stress, isn't it like, when you think about it, it's fear. You're afraid that something that you don't want to see is going to happen, or you're afraid that something you want to see is not going to happen, and then you chew on it, not achieving a whole lot, but you chew on it anyway. And it produces stress. It comes from your own thought process. Have you ever observed, and I'm sure everybody has, when you go at bed at night, this shoebox never stops, right? It never stops. It thinks all the time. What is it thinking about? You're because and I invite you to do this process, okay? You do this in meditation, you stop and you observe your thought. You don't follow them, you don't do anything with them, you just observe them. Pick one out of them, and if you go back and you observe where is it coming from, you will make an amazing discovery that is, to me, sort of a life-changing experience, but you'll discover that all your thoughts are generated by fear. The fear of not being enough. The fear of not being recognized, the fear that something that you have experienced that is negative, you don't want to see it come back. Something that is positive and you want to make sure to force it to happen again. Something that you have right now that you like, you don't want to lose it. That's the source of all these thoughts that are in your brain. But have you noticed that every time that you think like this and you say, if he tells me this, then I'll tell him that. But if that happens, then I'll do that. And I mean, it never happens the way that you plan. Never. So, but we do this all the time. It makes me think of this story in the Vedas, in Indian literature, of this person walking on the path, and at some point they see a snake. So it's nighttime, they don't see very well. They see a snake, so they're afraid. Somebody shed some light, and it's a rope. So it was not a snake. Now, if the person does not have a light to see that it was a rope, that person is going to be afraid of that path, maybe other paths that maybe could have snakes as well. And then there's a lot of thoughts that goes in there, all self-inflicted wounds. It's not real. It makes me think of this phrase by, I think it's Mark Twain, I'm paraphrasing here, but he said something like, I've spent all my life resolving problems that fortunately never happened to me. I mean, when you think about it. So, and the reason why I'm saying all of this is that we see a lot of snakes in our lives, and we don't have the light to show us that it's a rope. And we just deal with them, and we just generate so much of that. Stress is a self-inflicted wound. And I'm saying this simply because there's a whole field of study called neuropsychoimmunology that basically has drawn or made all these links between stress, anxiety, and degenerative problems. And virtually every single degenerative problem has somewhere in its component anxiety. It's associated to almost anything related to unwellness. So a good mental hygiene is also very, very good to help the whole cycle, if you want, work well. So this is sort of how all these things are interconnected. So the idea here is to go over the products in the YES system and see how, while we normally talk about them just for their effect on health, to talk about them in terms of in this deeper context or concept of seeing all the layers in which these products can help us. Does that sound good? Yeah. Okay. Before I go there, one little thing to add, which is sort of a parallel to all this discussion, and it's the fact that oftentimes the problems that we face that we want to resolve with regard to health are oftentimes cycles. Let me give you an example, you understand what I mean. Because sometimes we have a problem in our life and we say, it's my weight, it's my pain in my knee, it's this or that, it's my lack of energy. And we want to address that issue, but it's rarely that is the issue. It's a constellation of things. So it's a cycle. So let me give you an example. It's not a real example. It's purely theoretical. It's an illustration, and yet it may just speak home to a lot of people. So you are active. You have a lot of physical activity. It fulfills your life. And one day something happens. You develop pain in your knee, your hip, wherever. And then you can no longer do this activity that was so meaningful to you. So you stop. Now you're more sedentary. You don't move. So you start to gain a little bit of weight. Then you're kind of a little bit depressed. You're not really depressed, but you have the blues a little bit because you can no longer do this activity. So one thing leading to another, sometimes you compensate and you just reach for some, feel-good food, which kind of slowly start to tweak your blood glucose. And then with this then develops kind of a sort of a low-grade depression. You're more sedentary. The weight starts to put more pressure on that knee, so the pain is a little bit more. And then slowly develops some form of metabolic syndrome, meaning it starts to affect blood pressure and all kinds of things in your body. I mean, don't we see this around us all the time? And so we say, I want to address my fatigue. And that's just because there's a red flag at some point that crossed the threshold in your life. And you say, I need to address that. But it's not that needs to be addressed. It's a cycle. It's a whole slew of things. And instead of looking at one thing, oftentimes the question in this holistic view of ourselves is, how do I break that cycle? How do I do something like I take Reserve to help my physical activity. I take Revita Blue to help my physical activity. Then I start to move a little bit. The movement creates some endorphins. I feel better. I'm more productive. I'm more focused. And then you slowly build a strategy, because it needs a strategy. Some products coupled with a strategy can help you make a breach in these cycles. And with some discipline, that's how you get out of them. It's not like a one thing. So we need to understand this sort of multi-layered reality of our health. Good enough? Okay, so with all of this said, then let's bring our two members here of the Scientific Advisory Board. So we have one that is here, the other one at the last minute could not come, but we will have it on the screen with you. So the first one here, I would like you to really put your hand together for someone that I've learned to know more and more over the years. He's an expert in longevity medicine. He's an expert in stem cell science, stem cell research, stem cell treatments. He has a clinic of its own, so he practices all of this with real people and real life situation. Please welcome Dr. Luis Martinez.
Hello, everyone. Hi.
Thank you. Okay, and we have on the phone, not on the phone, and video with us, we have someone who does not need a lot of presentation because you know him very well. He is at the origin and the creation of Jeunesse. With the product Lumines. He has been in the company for a long time. He's a plastic surgeon. He has way more credential here than I can remember, but you already know him, so please a good hand to Dr. Nathan Newman. There you go.
Okay. Sorry, I can't be there in person.
Okay, so
Glad I can be with you today.
So Nathan, were you able to see and follow what we just talked about before?
Yes.
Perfect. So the first question here is, you are in your practice as a plastic surgeon, but you have a lot of experience with health. In your expertise and what you do, how can you speak about this sort of holistic aspect of life or health?
Yeah, the Western medicine has been focused so much on, like you said, one problem, one solution. And what I learned during my years of training and my years of doing work with stem cells, which is over 20 years, and looking at the cells in the laboratory, I realized the cells and the body already knows what to do. We have everything built in. All we have to do is to give it the resources so that our body can live and fix itself and be the most balanced and healthy part of the society that we can be. In terms of, you talked about exercise, but it's also sleep, also what we do in terms of habits, daily habits. Do we brush our teeth? Do we put on skincare? Do we take care of, ourselves from inside and out? Do we have the right foods? And that all plays into having yourself to be a healthy person. And as I trained as a dermatologist, and the first thing in the old days they used to do is that when you walked in, they just looked at you and they knew what your ailment was. By looking at your skin, we can tell if somebody's healthy or not. And because the skin sort of shows everything that's going on in the body. So if your skin is healthy, it's a mirror of what's going on in the body. And that's very important. And we want to make sure that you're healthy from inside and out and outside and in.
Yeah, it is true what you just said, Nathan. Old medicine, before all the blood tests that we have today, doctors were trained by looking at your skin, how you walk in, how you present, your posture. So many things about just how you are will allow them to give oftentimes an awfully precise diagnosis. And then you mentioned sleep. It is true. It's a dimension that I did not mention before. I didn't want to make it too complex. It is a super important part of the picture. If you don't have good sleep, it has huge impact on health. So, Dr. Lewis, you have a practice, so you see people coming for all kinds of problems, for longevity, which is really what we're talking about here. So your experience with all these factors, 'cause I know it's a part of your practice.
Definitely, and that's precisely what we're focusing on, longevity medicine. And longevity. We want to live more, we want to live better, we want to live healthier. And I think, as you mentioned, nowadays we have a lot of information that we did not have before, that we can apply precisely to our patients. We can measure NAD levels, we can measure precise nutrients, we can measure hormones, we can measure epigenetic methylation, stem cell testing. So we can do a lot of things nowadays that allow us to further fine-tune recommendations and clinical treatments, right? And one of the very important points, and as it relates to everything, all of this, is, as you mentioned, the multifactorial approach to health and wellness. There's no one magic bullet. There's biology, our cells, our organisms are complex systems, and they require different aspects in terms of treatment, nutrients, recommendations, because it all works together. Whether we're looking at replenishing NAD levels, whether we're looking at improving stem cell function and release, improving mitochondrial functioning, it all just works together. And I think that both in the micro scale and in the macro, as you mentioned, the exercise, the lifestyle interventions, the weight loss, everything goes together. So I think that's really the key here, that we need to focus on both, as individuals, as patients, as practitioners. We all need to understand how this is all just interconnected and how we need to look at all these different points and make them work together in harmony.
It's so interconnected when we talk about it that it becomes almost difficult to understand why is it that we actually never look at it that way.
Correct.
Because it's so obvious.
It is.
So I'm just curious, in your practice with patients,
yes,
do you have the ability of talking about these things, or they just shut off and it's not part, they come here for a bullet,
It's something very positive has been happening in the last few years. I think, first of all, I think both doctors and patients did not really grasp what we were looking for in terms of longevity and aging, and I think now that is really changing. Now patients come into the office, oh doctor, I want to know, what my NAD levels are. I saw this somewhere on the internet somewhere, or patients want to check their hormones, nutrients. Patients are becoming much more aware of treating aging as it is. I mean, aging is a condition that can be treated and can be positively impacted. And we have some baseline treatments right now that are very effective. And we're also, as you know, you're on top of all of this, the biotech revolution is really dramatically changing what we can do. And, for future generations, this is going to be it's almost going to look like science fiction. I mean, it's just how advanced we're becoming with all of this. So, expect to live and strive to live healthier and longer, because if we stay healthy long enough, we will be able to break that curve and live even longer. So that's exciting.
One thing that I know you practice in your clinic, I said a few words about it before, but mine is in theory because I'm not a clinician. So in your clinical experience, talk a little bit more about this cycle and breaking the cycle. I know it's your clinical strategy.
Definitely, and that's really the key here, because let's use a typical, an example of a patient. Patient comes in overweight, tired, overworked, poor nutrition, and when you look at that patient and you explain to the patient, they probably know what they need to do. They need to eat healthier, they need to exercise, they need to sleep more, but they cannot do it. They cannot break the cycle for a variety of reasons. And they are in a pro-inflammatory state, hormones are low, nutrients are low, so it's hard for them. They'll get tired if they start exercising fast. They'll have cravings if they try to cut down on their diet. So we have a lot of things in that cycle, or let me say a lot of points in that cycle where we can intervene to break that cycle. And breaking that cycle implies, in all the aspects, replenishing. I'll explain. I mean, it's hard to exercise, robustly if, for example, your hormone levels are dead, are zero, or nothing. And I get patients with really low hormone levels. It's hard to have energy if nutrients are low. It's hard to sleep if your neuroendocrine axis is not working properly. So what we need to do is identify where those deficiencies are so that we can start replenishing. And when we replenish, then a patient can break the cycle. And then, they feel energized, they can exercise, they feel that they can control their hunger pangs, they feel that they can rest. So it becomes an issue of identifying deficiencies and replenishing to break that cycle.
Interesting.
Yeah. And it really is, and I really hope that everyone that gets a chance to do so, everyone should check. You should always check your biology, your labs, everything, because it just goes it's like a symphony. I mean, if you have one instrument that's not playing adequately, you'll get everything not working properly. So at that level, you should always strive for that. And I want to bring that to an example. That really is, in my opinion, what YES is all about. Because the whole YES cycle is about the harmony and the combination of products that look to replenish, to bring back that function. And while they are each addressing specific points, they all work together in helping, our cells, our tissues, our organs, everything function properly. So it's really going back to that whole philosophy of integration, replenishing, and just wellness.
Well, let's get into it. Let's talk about the products from the YES system and how they feed this sort of more holistic approach to health. So Nathan, let's start with Lumines, but I have a specific question here, or at least an angle to approach the discussion, because the way that we present ourselves to the world, our skin, I mean, people come to see you because they want to change that. So what, in your experience, what is the impact of someone, like why do they come to your clinic? How important is it in their life that what they look like, their appearance, how it plays into this sort of holistic view of health, and then your perspective on that, with Luminesse, obviously.
Yes, I think it's very important to understand that how we look, how we appear, affects everything about us. Affects our emotions, affects our self-confidence, affects how we view the world, if we're happy, if we're not. If you want, and you know, a lot of our leaders are very confident people, and they're very happy people, and they feel good about themselves, and they always are sharp. They look good. They dress well. Their skin is, you know, really taken care of. Their hair is taken care of. Because what we do psychologically matters. And everything starts with how we view the world and how we look at ourselves. So if we look in the mirror, and we talked about, you know, the skin is the window to your health, and you look at yourself and you're all, you know, wrinkly, and you don't look good, and your skin doesn't have that glow to it, that's going to affect how you view yourself and how you will approach your life and you interact with other people. What Luminesse does is taken the power of stem cells, which are the regenerative and rejuvenative cells in the body, taken that language that they use to renew the skin, to make everything better, and basically we've bottled that and given it to you so that your skin will get nourished and will start to become healthier, younger looking, and there's a couple of things that we need to mention as well, is that it's not just trying to treat problems. We've really gone away from that with all the technology we have today, to understanding that a little bit of prevention is a lot better than trying to take care of something once it's already, you know, broken down and trying to fix it. A little bit of prevention goes much further. So even for the younger people who want to maintain their skin, who want to maintain their body, who want to maintain their health, it's much easier to go walking in a half hour or an hour every day than trying to lose, you know, gain all the weight and then try to lose it. Because now, like Dr. Martinez said, everything is interrelated. And once your body is out of balance, it's a lot harder to do anything to bring it back to balance. It takes a lot more work to restore that balance. So prevention is very important. So we want to start early, prevent the damage, and use our products like the Luminesse, like the Full Relief, like the RVL, which is for the hair, to prevent us to get to a point where we say, oh my God, what do I do now? Let's undo it.
Dr. Martinez, same thing here. I think you are very knowledgeable with Life, NMN, or any other products that you want to weave it in its impact on this holistic approach to health.
Totally. And yeah, I'll start with Life, NMN. You know, in longevity medicine, there's something called the hallmarks of aging. You know that, of course. And there's different causes or contributions to why we age at the cellular level. And I mean, it's a bit technical, I won't go over everything, but for example, we know that telomere shortening, mitochondrial dysfunction, nutrient sensing deficiencies, etc., contribute to the aging process. So one thing that has been studied a lot recently is something called NAD. It's a molecule that the body produces, and we know that with age, it decreases, production decreases, but it's also again, it becomes a vicious cycle. Because of its decrease, it contributes to accelerated aging and further dysfunction at the cellular level. So now we know that when we replenish NAD levels, we can positively impact that aging process. We can, you know, slow that down. We can start reverting some of the dysfunction that has accumulated. And this has been studied, I mean, in centers like Harvard and other big universities. There's a lot of published material now on NAD, what we can do to restore it, and the impact it's going to have on cells and obviously on the different tissues. So Life NMN brings an NAD precursor. So what we know is, how do we restore NAD levels? So we take these precursors, and NMN is one of the main ones that is being used right now, and your body, once it absorbs it, it goes through metabolism, and it becomes NAD. It increases NAD levels in your cells. So that's very, very precise. And it's interesting because it's a precise mechanism that has very broad benefits. And that goes back to the whole, how we were talking about the whole integration. Depending on where or how you restore this, you're going to have improvements. You can see improvements at the cellular level, but then obviously on your different systems, cardiovascular, immune, because all our cells need NAD. All our cells need that. So when you start increasing that systemically, you start reaping benefits. In addition to that, the Life NMN also has other components that are very critical. One of them is PQQ, which helps bring back to health our mitochondria. And those are like our energy powerhouses in the cells. We need our cells to produce energy adequately, and that's the role of the mitochondria there. When our mitochondria start not functioning properly, we start getting a lot of issues. And we also know that a lot of the aging process is tied to mitochondrial dysfunctioning. So we have some nutrients such as PQQ that can really stimulate those mitochondria, can stimulate what's called mitochondrial biogenesis and such. So again, in one product, we are addressing multiple issues related to the aging process. And I think that's just really wonderful. There's other ingredients in Life NMN, like the citrulline, that will help out with nitric oxide synthesis and such. But really, I'm really going to say that the main star here is the NMN and what it can do. And NAD levels start declining quite rapidly after our 30s and 40s. After that, it just starts going downhill. So I do actually NAD testing in my clinic, and I usually see that patients after 40, 50 years, their NAD levels are down, and mostly everyone has to start precursor therapy with NMN, with Life in this case, to really bring that up again. So that's definitely something very interesting that we're doing, and it's a practical application of a scientifically validated concept.
So thank you.
Yeah. Sure.
So if we now throw into this mix RevitaBlue with the same kind of discussion, obviously RevitaBlue is designed with ingredients that support the release of your own stem cells. If you did not release your own stem cells, normally you would not be alive today. It is an absolutely essential function of the body. What science has shown is that if you can put a little bit more stem cells in circulation, that means that more stem cells are available to participate in this daily function of tissue maintenance and tissue repair. So when you release these stem cells, they will recognize on their own where to go in the body. But they will go essentially where there's a signal. So one of the things that can help the function of these cells, these stem cells that you've just released, is exercise, for example. If you start to move, your body will reveal the places where you have something that is not functioning properly, whether it's your heart, whether it's your lung, a joint, a muscle. You will feel some pain. What is pain? It's a signal. Well, it's the same signal that stem cells use to see where they need to go. So you kind of help stem cells to find where to go, and by pumping the blood throughout all your body, then you allow the distribution of these stem cells. So that's one of these cross-reactivity between the benefit of the product and exercise. As we talked a little bit before, if you exercise, you burn these hormones of stress. Stress is one of the things that will have an effect on stem cells. These studies were done. If I take you, for example, and I show you a nice movie, I have a nice discussion with you about topics that really touch you, inspire you, and I take a blood sample. And then right after, I put you through some anxiety, something that for you is really generating serious anxiety. Then half an hour later, I take another blood sample, and if I look at the stem cells, after being exposed to stress, your stem cells have a reduced ability to migrate into tissues and proliferate. So another way by which physical exercise can help stem cell function, and what RevitaBlue does, is by reducing stress. Now, another interesting benefit of RevitaBlue, I rarely talk about it, because stress and joy are sort of the two faces of the same coin. When you're happy, you're not stressed. When you're stressed, you're not happy. So they're sort of the antidote, I wouldn't say not the other. You don't want to be stressed in order to counteract your joy, but probably the other way around. So you do things to be happy. Well, there is in RevitaBlue a very, very interesting synergy. There is a molecule in your brain that your brain fabricates, synthesizes. It's called phenylethylamine, PEA. It's called in chemistry the molecule of love, or the molecule of joy. Anytime you are happy, content, your brain makes PEA. It supports the neurotransmission of norepinephrine and dopamine in your brain. If you are deficient in PEA, it translates into mood swings, low mood. It can go down to depression, ADD in kids. And if you consume PEA, it was documented to basically just restore normal function. AFA in RevitaBlue is one of the very rare natural sources of PEA. Now, PEA will not last long in the body. It's degraded by an enzyme, but sea buckthorn berry has a compound that blocks that enzyme. So you've got a really nice synergy here with sort of a joy phenomenon, and that is why many people taking RevitaBlue, the first thing they experience is that a few, let's say 30 minutes later, I feel better, like a slight mood elevation. So again, that will then loop back and also have an effect on stem cells. So it sort of really all plays together, one helping another one. Sleep, Dr. Newman mentioned sleep. That's an important, super important parameter of overall health. I think that I was going to say our nation, but the world suffers from insomnia as a whole. We won't have a chance to go into the details of it, but there are very, very important functions taking place during sleep in terms of cleansing the brain, removing all debris in the brain. But another thing is that when you go into deep sleep, you also secrete melatonin that has been shown to support stem cell repair in the brain. So you release your stem cells in the day, you have deep sleep, you again magnify the benefits of the product that you're taking. So here's some of these let's say holistic approach or holistic impact of taking a product like RevitaBlue. So we talked about Lumines, Dr. Newman. We have something very similar with Reveal.
Yeah, Reveal is, helps to restore the health to the hair. So it will help to make the hair thicker, bouncier, fuller, and if you have the good follicles, then your hair is going to look that way and is going to be maintaining itself. A lot of the problems with the scalp is also resolved with Reveal, because the shampoo and the conditioner really help restore the health to the scalp. And the scalp of the hair is really vital to how the hair is going to be. So as we talked about, this sort of balancing that we need to do inside the body and on the skin is vital. And the time that you need to do this is not something that is static. We're just like we need to always eat and drink and sleep. Your body always needs everything else to balance itself. So you need to do this on a daily basis to maintain the balance, to support your cells, to support your body.
Thank you, Dr. Newman. Dr. Martinez, you want to go on? AMPM or?
Yeah, well, actually, I was going to talk also about AMPM Infinity.
Go ahead.
Infinity is also another of these really interesting products that, I think it maybe came a bit ahead of its time, because now it's so much of a hot topic what we're talking about, telomere length and how it relates to aging and just supporting all of that. So it is a wonderful product that really supports that aspect of your cells. And again, I think we've gone over this, but as you age, telomeres start shortening, cells stop dividing, and that contributes to dysfunction. And that brings another topic. We won't go into senescent cells, which are really old dysfunctional cells. But if you can support telomere length and just being able to have those cells continue to divide and stay healthy, that is wonderful. And that's a very important area of research and applications in longevity medicine. In addition, it has other ingredients that can help protect against the production of certain toxic byproducts, such as the AGEs, advanced glycation end products. So it is I think it's a very interesting and valuable supplement that forms part of the system and contributes to what we're talking about, really impacting, the aging process. And of course, I mean, AMPM, it's one of the cornerstones, one of the best known products at Jeunesse. And it's such a comprehensive supplement because it goes, obviously it has multivitamins and minerals, but it goes way beyond just that. So it really is a wonderful base supplement to cover all these micronutrient and nutritional needs. And then it also has specific nutrients and combinations to support a lot of these aspects as they relate to the aging process and helping the cells, helping protect against the free radicals, protecting the DNA, strengthening the immune system. So again, these are two wonderful supplements that combine with Revita Blue, with Life NMM, and all of the others that we have in the YES system and work synergistically to optimize. It's what it's called, youth enhancement system. So let's optimize what we can do from a nutritional and of course a cosmeceutical and topical perspective to really hit this hard. I mean, just a quick anecdote. Maybe a lot of you maybe know me or don't know me because I've been very active with Latin America. So I've been main medical advisor, scientific advisor for Latin American region. So I'm getting more involved with North America, and hopefully I'll see you guys a lot more. But I remember, every time I would lecture or give a presentation in Latin America and any of these countries, I would start off asking the crowd one simple question. And I would just ask everyone for a show of hands, and I would ask them, who wants to age? And of course, I think once there was this person that...
He was 12.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he was probably like 12 or something. But, exactly, that was the idea, to bring awareness. Nobody wants to age. We do not want to age. We want to stay young and healthy. So what's the other question is, what's stopping you from achieving that? Well, obviously, we need to know what are the hallmarks, what are the aspects of aging that we can intervene on. We need to know what are the lifestyle issues that we need to implement. And once we know all that, we need to take action. Replenish, cover, combine. So, hopefully nobody here wants to age and we can reach our peak health and just continue this way because, like I said, the future is going to be very, very interesting.
So thank you so much.
Of course.
So let me say, there you go. Let me say a few words about Reserve core product here in the YES system, and in everything that we're talking about, this holistic approach and breaking, the cycle of unwellness. Reserve is a star product because of resveratrol. So you want to do exercise, resveratrol was shown to accelerate or support the process of recovery. So obviously, if you did exercise and it helps you in recovery, you've also got the benefits of exercise on cognitive function. Well, resveratrol was also on its own documented to have some significant benefits on cognitive function. Just like exercise, resveratrol is now studied as part of strategies to help slow down the development of a whole slew of neurodegenerative problems of the brain, because it affects various aspects of brain function. Mostly, or as part of this microcirculation in the brain, it does affect the process of demethylation of DNA, which is also associated with aging and a number of neurodegenerative problems. So it helps cognitive function. There is also an effect on metabolic syndrome. We talked about it before. It must be something that you see a lot in the clinic today. It's associated with almost anything that is associated with fatigue, low immunity, overweight. And the moment you start in a sort of a low-grade depression, the moment you have those, then somewhere buried in there you've got metabolic syndrome. Well, resveratrol was shown to be able to alleviate a lot of these or improve a lot of the parameters associated with metabolic syndrome. Even if we put aside the disease itself, just many of the factors of unwellness. So to me, I see Reserve as one of the core products to be inserted in a strategy of breaking the cycle. Not necessarily the only one, but certainly one of those to break the cycle of unwellness. And going directly into your field, resveratrol has been studied and documented to activate genes associated with longevity. So it is also sort of central to any strategy touching longevity.
Totally.
So we've got not a whole lot of time left, but there's one thing that I would like to address with both of you. 2 years into a nice pandemic, immunity is on everybody's mind. So what can we say about immunity with some of the key products in the YES system? So let's start with whichever that you feel comfortable with.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, well, the one thing I'll say about immunity is that it goes way beyond just directly stimulating your white blood cells, the cells in your immune system that are the guardians against, invaders, pathogens. And what I mean with that is that when we think about immunity, we often think about, let's take some vitamin C, let's take vitamin D, some, zinc, stuff like that, which is wonderful. It really helps our systems. But what we oftentimes forget about immunity is how the whole process is related. For example, something as direct as being overweight or being obese severely dampens your immunological response. So a lot of people don't think about, hey, let's lose weight to improve our immunity, but that's precisely one of the things that losing weight can do. It can actually improve your immunity. We mentioned, sleep. Sleep is extremely crucial to having a good, strong, robust immunity. Melatonin release, chronobiological processes are so important, and then stress, obviously. So again, when we look at building immunity, there's just all these different aspects that we need to focus on, and then you can look at, for example, you want to improve, stress or just feel better and focus more. You look at mind, the mind supplement, it can have a calming effect with the L-theanine. Your product, Vita Blue, is amazing. The PEA, I agree with you. I think it's a wonderful component that can really, give you that relaxation and also, some mild euphoria. You feel good. So again, when you think about immunity, think about all the different factors that contribute to immunity that you should be addressing and that you can address with the YES system.
With regard to immunity, in the concept of what we've talked about today, I put a lot of emphasis on stress and the impact of stress in life. And when we talk about immunity, again, stress plays a great factor. You take Reserve, you take Revita Blue to help cognitive function, to get this feel-good effect, if you want. It has a huge impact on the immune system as well. Your immune cells have receptors for the neurotransmitters of joy in your nervous system. There's a direct correlation between immune strength and your level of just well-being. If you feel depressed, your immune system is depressed as well. There's a direct relationship. So anything you can do to just embrace life more will have an impact on the immune system. Now, if we go into the products of the YES system themselves, of course, we have Immune 365 that was developed for 365 or 360? 360. I call it 365 because it's for every day. And so this product was developed for that purpose, but there's other products in the YES system that will have a great effect on immunity. Take Revita Blue. Seabuckthorn berry was documented to have a strong effect on the immune system. The polysaccharide in AFA has been documented, published in the scientific literature to support the migration of NK cells that play a specific role for virally infected cells and cancer cells in the body. It sends them out in your body, dispatches them, send them to patrol to find cells that need to be taken care of. When they do find a cell to take care of, then the polysaccharide in AFA was also shown to activate NK cells. Oftentimes, an overactive immune system is a cause of inflammation and oxidative stress in your body. Well, in a normal state, without activation, those polysaccharides were also shown to suppress the ability, not the ability, but the sort of the background level of free radicals and inflammation produced by the immune system. It's an amazing immune modulator. And then the other one, Allumune, that comes to mind. Allumune as polysaccharide coming from aloe vera. They've been studied for many, many, many different applications for gut health, which again is deeply related to your immune functions. If there's one thing in your life that you can take care of, that has a huge impact on your immunity, is your gut health, your intestinal flora. One of the products that we have currently that will have an effect on your flora is Allumune. Aloe vera was studied, almost 30 years ago right now, and all of the focus of the initial studies was how to help maintain good gut health, repair leaky gut. So Allumune will play a great role there, aside from its effect on the immune system. It has a direct effect on the immune system by not so much in the immune cells, but it suppresses the secretion, the production of certain cytokines that will overstimulate the immune system and create a lot of the problem that we have seen actually incidentally in this whole COVID situation. We don't suffer from the problem, we suffer from the overreaction of our immune system to the problem. So if you take things that can suppress all of that and keep that all in balance, then it really helps your overall immune system. And we can go like this through a lot of other products and how they affect the immune system. But the moment you start to add Reserve, AMPM, RevitaBlue, Allumune, put a little bit of exercise, use Lumines, and enjoy life, stop stressing, there's no problem that is worth your stress. By the way, your stress has never achieved anything. You can put it aside, and then your life is going to be the same, improved.
Agreed, and just, when you mention problems, so, if you have a problem, if you can fix it, why worry? If you can't fix it, why worry? It either has a solution or it doesn't, but we overstress a lot. Yeah. And all the time, it's just like we really just, in our minds, we overstress about everything, and we need to learn to just relax and let go and understand how things will flow and just do things right. So that's the idea there.
A lot of these snakes are really just rope. Actually, almost all of them. So that's what we wanted to share with you today. Thank you very much, guys, for your attention.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure. Looking forward to being back with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
At Jeunesse, we have a system of products that pushes a youthful, healthier lifestyle to new heights. And we make it easier than ever with our exclusive Jeunesse Youth Enhancement System. Our top-selling skincare products emphasize radiant, younger-looking skin and diminish the appearance of fine lines, wrinkles, and other imperfections. The cutting-edge wellness products of the Youth Enhancement System rely on exceptional blends of vitamins, minerals, and other essential elements as they work with our skincare products, helping you achieve a more youthful, healthful feeling every day. Our innovative beauty products are carefully and responsibly curated by industry experts. These beauty boons help reveal and ignite every aspect of a more gorgeous you. The Jeunesse Youth Enhancement System.
All right.